It's like right here. So I'm gonna have to turn my YouTube off though, right?
Uh,
Ooh, it's loud. Oh, see, now you get my hair going up. It's delayed a little bit.
it, everyone can watch it when you're streaming.
I know that now. It's all good. It's kind of an impromptu thing.
So I guess the first thing to say is welcome everybody. My name is Andrew Bechtel. I'm chair of the Civil Engineering Department at the College of New Jersey. I'm here with my friend Thomas Brennan, who is also a professor in the Civil Engineering Department at the College of New Jersey. We're going to kick things off by saying what got us into engineering, and then we're here to basically answer your questions. So I'm going to send it to Dr. Brennan and say, Dr. Brennan, where are you from originally? Like, where did you grow up? And what got you into engineering? Why did you want to be an engineer?
You know all the answers to these questions, Dr. Bechtel, but for the benefit of our audience, I will answer them. I'm originally from South Jersey. I'm a graduate of Gateway High School down in Woodbury Heights, New Jersey. And what got me in engineering? Oh, I kind of like building things. And so I was trying to figure out what type of engineering I wanted to get into. Ended up at Purdue University, worked in engineering. I was kind of in aerospace at first, but now I was like, I like the outdoors a little bit more. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to be dirty. I like to get out under the sun. And so civil engineering had a bit of an appeal for me for that. The other engineering also had an appeal, but I was more in line with the civil side. So I went to Purdue, graduated, got a job working for Halliburton for a few years down in Georgia. A little bit hot down there, but got a really good experience with hands-on construction and doing a little bit of design work. Ended up in Northern Virginia doing work for a company there, doing a lot of site civil land development, designing roadways, sanitary systems, stormwater systems, and basically like the developments, municipal systems, and all kinds of stuff like that. It's actually a lot of fun. It was really cool because, when I first started getting engineering, I'm like, I'm not really sure what I want to do. And so then I started working in this land development. I got to get my fingers in just about everything. It was almost like having like a series of internships. And so I worked there for a few years, got my professional license, ended up doing my master's degree at George Mason University. My work had paid for it, which was very nice. And what I did was said, I kind of like this. I like the whole picture of engineering. I like all different aspects of engineering. But what I need to do is I need to start teaching this stuff. So here I was again, packing up my family. Actually, it was just my wife and I at the time. Went back to Purdue University, got my PhD, and then ended up at the College of New Jersey. Now I was looking at other schools like Iowa State and down in UNC Charlotte, and a couple other schools at Virginia Tech. And what's interesting is that those schools, they focus on the research, they focus on making money for the schools with research. What I liked about TCNJ is that I had the ability to do not only research, which to me is like a lot of fun, but I got to teach classes. So I teach my own classes. I don't have a teacher's assistant or somebody comes in and does my work for me. I do my own work. I develop my classes. And so I get integrated not only within the classroom, but with my students. So I know it's a long-winded question, but that's my travels from New Jersey, Indiana, Georgia, Virginia, Indiana, then finally back to my home state of New Jersey.
All right, thank you. I'm going to give my background, but it'll be much shorter, and then we can get to your questions because we do have some questions in the chat. Again, my name's Andrew Bechtel. I'm originally from a place called Slatington, Pennsylvania. It's basically just south of the coal country in Pennsylvania. Ever since I was really young, I like building things. My grandfather, my family, there were a bunch of contractors. I learned to make concrete at the tender age of like 10 or 11, and then I was used as labor. I was paid, but not that much. But I learned a lot, and I learned how to work for an entire day. I then went to get my engineering degree at Drexel University in Philadelphia. I really enjoyed my time there, learned a lot, and understood that I wanted to learn more. So I went down to the University of Delaware, where I got my master's degree. And from there, I decided I wanted to do research and teach. So I went to the Georgia Institute of Technology. After that, I came back, and I've been teaching at the College of New Jersey ever since. And I enjoy my time there. I like teaching my classes. I like interacting with the students. If you would like to know more about where Tom and I work, you can look at the links in the description. We have links for the civil engineering department, the College of Engineering, the school in general, everything you might want to know. So now I have some questions in the chat, and so let me answer your questions before I talk more about myself. So we have a question. Do we need to take a placement exam for the engineering field, or do we need a certain SAT score? This is actually a tricky question, at least in my opinion right now, because there's a lot of schools that are going SAT optional due to COVID-19 because it's hard to get out and take the SAT and people can't take it in the way that they want to. I don't think there is a certain score you need to take. Obviously, the better you do on the SAT, the better a school or place you can go into. But I won't say that there's a certain set SAT score you need to have if you want to be an engineer. What do you think, Tom, about this?
I mean, we get students from all over the state, and understand that the College of New Jersey is a state school, and people have different backgrounds and different situations, and SAT scores are just an indicator. I've had students come in as a freshman who didn't necessarily do great on the SATs, but they're fantastic students, and this college does recognize these things. And so when you say, you have to have a certain SAT score? I wouldn't say a certain SAT score. You just have to have a decent one, and more important though, you have to do things in your community. You have to do well in your other classes and your overall grade. They're just not going to look at your one score.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, more questions coming in. From what I've read, TCNJ does not have co-ops. Is this true? If so, is there anything similar we can do? It is true that at TCNJ we do not have co-ops, but we do have internships. And let me speak more to that because I went to Drexel, which is the home of the co-op. There at Drexel, you have hundreds of kids going on co-op, and they have a whole system that basically places you with companies. At TCNJ, it's a little different and maybe a little closer to home in that most of our students are able to find a internship on their own, and if they don't, they come to me and they say, Dr. Bechtel, I need help finding an internship. Which in that case, I use my personal connections and help them find an internship with people I know in industry. And I know Dr. Brennan does a lot of these things himself as well. So it's handled differently. Realistically, every student I've ever known that wanted an internship got an internship. What do you have to say to that, Dr. Brennan?
No, I think that's a very fair statement. I'm on a couple of boards within the state, licensure boards, ITS New Jersey. And what happens is we start talking to people, we start presenting at different conferences. And in addition, I worked in the industry. I'm a professional engineer. I still do consulting on the side. So I have contacts and I know people. And people are starting to realize what type of student TCNJ is presenting. And so, I mean, there's that back and forth. What are the better schools in the state? What we're doing is we're producing consistently good students. And that is being recognized by the industry. So when I make a phone call to some of the local companies to say, look, I have a person here who's interested in transportation. And mind you, I'm a transportation professor. It doesn't really matter what your engineering, your desires are. But as you start working with professors, you start saying, well, I like this aspect, I like that aspect. A lot of professors have these contacts. And since we have such close contacts with the students, they know that we're telling the truth when we say they're sitting in the classroom, they're doing their work, they are an excellent student. So we do have that contact and that connection within the state.
Great. As far as getting work and work experience, we don't really have trouble getting that into you. All right, next question. What is the benefit of TCNJ engineering over other New Jersey schools like Rowan, Rutgers, Stevens? Tom, why don't you handle this one first, and then I'll come in with what I think.
Okay, well, there's that touting of the small school, and there's definitely that. I literally have students call me, they text me. You know, we have situations. We have an internship where I need somebody to read through my resume. I have that contact with all my students, not just a couple of them, and so I know my students very, very well. Some of the other benefits, you know, when I speak with people in the industry, and I can't sit there and say that other schools are bad. They're all good schools. They're all good engineering schools. What I can say is that our worst student, for lack of a better term, is probably their mid-level. And so we're being recognized every year. I've been here 8 years, and every year that I've been here, I'm getting more students out in the industry. I'm getting more more alumni that are out there hiring back on our students, and we are making that impact. We have these connections. That's what I think makes us better than Rowan and Rutgers and Stevens, is that, first of all, we are not R1 Institute. What that means is that we're not a research intense institute. We do research. We do very good research. My laboratory has a Department of Transportation connected autonomous vehicle laboratory, but I am not required to bring in millions of dollars into the school. When you go to the bigger schools, they are. And I'm not saying the bigger schools aren't bad. They're good, but that might be the next level. If you decide to go for a master's or a PhD, then you'll get treated as a master's student or a PhD like you're getting treated now at TCNJ as an undergraduate. And in addition, I have 6 students working for me right now doing research work. I've had a number of students do publications, presentations in Washington, D.C., and Dr. Bechtel can also attest to that as well. You're not going to get that same sort of experience if you go to a larger school, because they're going to look for people that are committed for 18 months to 4 years as a PhD, and they're going to want to pay them and make sure that they get that work out there well before the undergraduates do.
I mean, I agree with everything that Dr. Brennan has said, and I guess I would add to when he said that all the schools are the same. They are the same because every engineering program is governed by ABET, and ABET guarantees that when you're done, you can become an engineer. It's more of the personal touches that the different schools add. Our focus at TCNJ is small class size, knowing the students, and having a good interpersonal relationship with them. All right, next question. Does coming in without an SAT score hurt our chances of getting into engineering? For this term, no, because we have become test optional because of COVID-19. What it will, there's simply, I guess, there is one benefit of having an SAT score. When you come in to be an engineer, you're going to be put in math and science courses, calculus, physics, things like that. If you take the SAT and you score high enough, you can be placed directly in calculus. If you come in without an SAT score, you're going to have to take a placement test. So,
I think also for writing as well. I think writing also has that benefit as well, certain classes.
Yeah, it has benefits to placement. I don't think it has any negative effect. I would just encourage you to be safe. Don't risk yourself getting sick, going out and taking the SAT.
2 good questions coming up.
So, how many students are admitted into engineering programs at TCNJ every year? This is a good question. It is a complicated question because it has to do with, we get students who apply, then we accept students, and then the students get to choose. Some, maybe, hopefully, everyone just only applies to TCNJ. When we accept you, you come right there, but that's generally not the case. So what happens is we probably admit, I would say somewhere around 80 to 100 students. So
that's for the whole engineering school.
In the whole engineering, we had more than that in the whole engineering school.
Whole engineering school.
Like, so you have to admit enough students so that you get enough of them to accept, so you have a full class size. What's more germane to people applying is that we look to have class sizes around 24 or 25. So we admit as many students as we can so we can hit that course level. I would say in civil engineering, we're probably about 100 admits around there.
We get 100 admits, and that's trying to shoot for 25.
I was just informed by the dean that it is 200.
200 for the whole? Okay.
So another question, and Tom, you can handle this one. I've been focused on architecture, but my friend told me to look into civil engineering. Is there any major difference between the two? Actually, I'm going to untake that away from you.
Yeah,
and I'm going to answer that
question
question
for you.
because I have a degree. I have 1 degree in civil engineering and I have 1 degree in architectural engineering. And I can tell you that at this point in time, there is a real big difference between architecture and civil engineering. This was not always true, but it is more in modern times true. The difference, architects used to do some amount of structural design, and they do rudimentary stuff right now, but what an architect does is he designs how a building looks and feels to you. Like when a person comes in, it's how they interact with the building. That's where architecture focuses. A civil engineer or a structural engineer, engineers focus on making them things work. So as a structural engineer, I say, well, I want this building to stand and not fall down and perform excellently. It's kind of a different perspective. An architect will kind of decide how will the building feel and how will people interact with the building, and then the engineer comes in and says, well, how do I make this work? How do I make it stand up in hurricanes, earthquakes, under the loads, things like that. It really depends on what kind of eye you have. If you have more of an artistic eye, I would say then architecture is probably more your thing. But if you're more of a technical person and you like physics and things like that, then civil engineering would be a better way to go. But you're not. So the other thing about being an architect is that to be an architect, you generally need a master's degree to practice. So if you had a civil engineering degree and you worked on your hand drawing and things like that, made a portfolio, you could ultimately become an architect as well. And you'd have a leg up on people who didn't have the technical background that an engineer does. But
I think I always like the statement that if an engineer, a civil engineer, if she designs a building, if she designs the stones so the architect can walk across the water, I guess is always the statement. And so that's the idea. The architect's going to get a lot of the praise for some of the design, but it's the civil engineer. She's the one putting together, or he's the one putting together that thing to hold everything together.
And I should also mention that Tom's wife is an architect. So he has
landscape architect.
Architect's an architect. Now I just want to take a second to, again, everybody watching, we have links to the School of Engineering at TCNJ, admissions, and all kinds of stuff down in the description. And this coming weekend, we're having a Lions Day open house event where you can register and come talk to me again. One thing I want to mention about these open houses where you sign up and register, they do consider that when you're applying to the College of New Jersey. So if you're thinking about putting in an application, come check us out this weekend. It'll be fun. And you can do it from home. Hopefully we'll start having on-campus things again soon. Well, hopefully more questions will come in. I'm going to ask Dr. Brennan some more questions and talk about how he has been handling the change of COVID-19 in the classroom and like what we've been doing to deal with this. So what fun stuff have you been doing?
Well, it's I actually been going into the laboratory, into the classroom, and teaching from the laboratory and from the classroom. Have access to a very large screen TV and a couple of pan tilt zoom cameras, which gives me a greater ability to kind of demonstrate some of the things that are happening in the laboratory. This is a very unfortunate thing that's going on right now, and I'll tell you, it's a lot easier and a lot more effective to be teaching in the classroom with the students. And I can't believe it, but I actually missed all my students. You know, that thought is like, oh, this place would be great if it wasn't for students. So you hear that kind of a goofy thing. No, I'll tell you, it's been miserable without the students. We have that interaction. We have these college students that are coming in. We have these students that we're wanting to learn. I missed that. So what I'm trying to do online is I'm trying to make sure that we have that same sort of interaction. We develop those same sort of relationships. We develop that networking sort of ideal. And I'm the best, just teaching the class has been a little problematic, getting softwares up and running. But these types of things can actually happen in the laboratory themselves. You know, sometimes, you have a software that doesn't run. And so we're trying to get the students to just understand is, look, we're trying to get a degree here. We're trying to get you internships. We're trying to help you get internships, mind you. And in a few years, you're going to be making a salary as an engineer. And so although it seems very daunting at the moment, going through everything, everybody's going through this. And so we're trying to get you to that next level. So when you do graduate, even for our seniors right now who are getting ready to graduate, they're going to be going into an online situation. So we're trying to prepare them the best way we can for leaving today, leaving tomorrow, and leaving 4 years from now. And we're trying to be cognizant of all the situations that are happening at the moment. I'm just doing the best I can within my classroom. I think I'm doing a pretty good job. It's not quite the same. I'm still trying to have games. I learned Kahoot. Some of you probably have Kahoot if you're doing that in high school. I learned it from my 13-year-old and started integrating that in the class and trying to integrate a number of things in the class to make it more interesting and fun. And so I'm trying to become a better teacher and to change my style. And I think in the long run, I will be a better teacher. And I think my students will be better students as well. That's a little bit long-winded answer, but Dr. Bechtel, back to you.
So back to me. Well, right now you're watching me on my YouTube channel. If you want to take my statics class, feel free. All the videos are up there, so you can just watch that. I've just been doing things with technology, trying to become better, better at communicating and coming to people where they are. I think people like it, but the best compliment I got was like a student said, "You know, we're online now, but your class is pretty much the same as your class in person." So I took that as a big compliment. The only real difference is that we're looking at each other over a computer monitor. I tried to do a lot of active learning where students work together on projects, not so much lecture, test, homework, test, quiz, things like that. More, it's engineering. You need to do hands-on things. You need to work together. No one designs a bridge or a building by themselves. Everything is done as a team, and it's important to have those excellent teamwork skills.
Absolutely. And I'm actually still doing research with students remotely as well, and we're still being successful. I actually had one publication submitted over the summer and never saw the student all summer other than online. So these interactions are still occurring, and we're still getting work done.
Yeah. And we've had a bunch of questions roll in, so we can get back to that.
All right.
So, a good question. Can you talk a little bit about the PE license? Is it more of a requirement that everyone has, or something that is just meant to build credibility in the industry?
Is that me?
That's you, because you have a PE license.
Yeah, okay. So the professional engineering license. So those of you out there, when I graduated high school, I didn't know what a professional engineer was. When I went to Purdue University and I got through my sophomore year, I still didn't know what a professional engineer was. It's actually really simple. It's a license that allows you to practice within the state. And I think the question was along the lines of, is it build credibility in the industry? It builds credibility for yourself. At that point, you can become an expert witness. At that point, you can develop your own company. It's like a license, like an attorney. It's like a license for somebody to practice medical, like to be a doctor, to work on a surgeon, a general practitioner, any of those. It's a license from a state, and every state's different. And you have reciprocity in every state. But what it does, it provides you for lack of a better term, the credibility to show that you are in fact a professional licensed engineer. You've graduated from an ABET accredited school. You've passed the EIT, or what they call the Fundamentals of Engineering examination, which is like a 6-hour examination when you first graduate. After 4 years of practicing under the guidance of a professional engineer, you yourself can apply for your engineering license. And once you do that, you get the license, you're certified from the state. You have to take annual or biannual accreditation, or what they call continuing education units, and then you're a practicing engineer. You will get more money for it. You will get more credibility for it. And so again, if you want to start your own company, then you have that ability to do that. There's differences between electrical and biomedical and civil, but I would say it's especially important in civil engineering, and then it probably goes down to mechanical and electrical as well. But in civil engineering, it's a very, very important thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would agree that it's different depending on your engineering discipline. Civil engineers live and die by their PE license. Like, you can't work on your own until you're a PE license, because you use it to seal your drawings, and your drawings become legal documents. And that's the way the civil engineering industry is structured. Mechanical, electrical, they tend to work in larger companies where maybe they have one PE, and under that one PE, that person oversees many more people that work. So I would say the PE is most critical for civil engineering. Now, follow up to that, how many years after college do you get it? Does it require a certain amount of years of experience at a company? And the answer to that is yes. It requires, if you have a bachelor's degree, it requires 4 years of active experience. For each advanced degree you get, it's 5 years. 4 or 5 years, Tom?
4 years.
4 years. And then for each advanced degree, you get a year knocked off of how many years you need. So if you got a master's degree afterwards, you get 3 years. If you got a PhD, you need to work for 2 years.
Yeah, and it's very strict. I'm licensed in Virginia, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And New Jersey, by far the hardest one to apply for reciprocity. They have very, very strict guidelines. So if you get your PE in New Jersey, you can pretty much go almost anywhere except for like Florida and California. These are things to just consider, but we help you for that. We actually in the engineering department, we require you to take the course that shows you how to do the FE examination. And people will go, well, this isn't a great thing. It's something you'll learn to like after you pass the FE, because it's one of those things you have to do. And when we force you to take it, I don't want to say force you, when we require you to take it, it's going to be a lot better in the long run. It's going to help you develop your career a lot better. And we have a pretty good passing rate coming through this school for passing the FE fundamentals of engineering examination, which is again the requirement for the PE.
And it's best to take that early. I think something is lost. The test is now fully online, but it used to be you show up to a giant room and sit down with everybody and take the test. And it's a little weird when you're like 21 years old and you're sitting next to someone who's like 45 taking it for his 10th time and is struggling with it because he put it off. It's best to be done early and get done quickly.
Yeah, get it done.
All right. Question about what is the profile of an accepted TCNJ freshman? So the school-wide, I am not sure. Engineering-wide, I would say that we have a 1300 SAT score, and they are like a solid GPA of like 3 to 3.5 in high school, if that is a student profile.
I think that's about right. And don't forget the question before that. Would it be better to go for a bachelor's degree and your master's straight away, or gain some work experience first, then a master's degree? That's a loaded question. That's a personal decision. And it all comes down to the market as well. If it's a very hot job market and you're going to get a pretty big salary and they're saying, well, come work for us and we'll pay for your master's degree, that might be the better option. If the job market's down and you just want to continue on with your master's degree, you can do that as well and do research. It all depends on what you want to do. As far as going straight away, I took mine after a couple of years of experience, and I got a better perspective when I took the master's degree. And so that gave me a little bit more focus. Sometimes people don't know what they want to do exactly when they first graduate with an engineering degree. And so as you start to develop yourself, then you can start to look at the master's level as an enhancement. But some students want to go straight away, and that's fine too. But I think structural engineer is probably important for them to do that.
It really depends. I know that structural engineering and geotechnical engineering, if you start looking up jobs, a lot of them are going to start saying masters. It won't say masters required, but it's more masters preferred because you get a more breadth of knowledge. Instead of me working, I went straight to graduate school and I did research. I'd have to say the master's degree is the most fun degree. So why would you want to put that off? It's definitely
the most fun. You go from really hard bachelor's to master's is a lot more focused, and I wouldn't say easier, but more interesting and fun.
Yeah, more interesting and fun, but it doesn't have the pressure of getting your PhD.
No, which is a whole nother stress. But it's also fun once you're done.
The other thing too is if you want to work and get your master's degree, that's definitely possible now too, in that some employers will pay for your degree as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in engineering, a lot of times, I don't know too many students who pay for their own master's degree. Either the school will pay for it, not our school, but the school that you apply to, they'll pay for it and put you as a research assistant or a teacher's assistant, or your work will pay for it. And that's exactly what happened with me. It took like 3 years while somebody was paying for me. So I was getting a full salary plus a stipend to go to master's degree. And instead of taking 18 months, it took 36 months. And it was free.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to roll 2 questions into one. Is there a minor that would be especially helpful to a civil engineer? Also, is it common to major in engineering and minor in business? So if you can work a minor in business isn't going to hurt you, but most engineering programs are very full. So the chance to minor can be very slim.
It's just about course load. Can you do it? Yes. If you want to take summer courses extra, yes, you could probably do it. But during the semester, the engineering classes pretty much dominated. There's a reason engineers get paid well when they graduate. It's an intensive, no matter where you go. And as Dr. Beckler mentioned, that we are at an ABET accredited school, and any school that's ABET accredited has to follow pretty strict guidelines as far as development of classes and the number of courses they need to take. And it's pretty well packed in. But I would say a minor in business is not a bad thing at all. especially in civil engineering. With these capital projects cost millions, if not billions, of dollars. Understanding a little bit about the financial aspects of it is not a bad thing.
I, I would maybe say one more thing on that. If you have time to do a minor, I would encourage you to become involved in professional organizations like the American Society of Civil Engineers. Things like that can be maybe more beneficial to you than a minor, because when you're part of those organizations, you're going to go out and actually meet engineers and get to know them and become friends with them. Engineers are really nice people, and they really like students, and they really want to get to know you. And networking and things is probably the networking and people skills is a world of difference in the civil engineering field and most engineering fields.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in the beginning, think about any civil engineering, big engineering projects, you have to have multiple people involved. And the same goes for a lot of the engineering. I mean, it's not just civil engineering. You all have to work with it. I'm just trying to use civil as an example because we're both civil engineers. Anytime you think of a highway or an orange cone out there, there's a army of civil engineers and technicians that are behind those, trying to get those things put together, all the construction, the design, and then the financial aspects as well. It's a pretty big endeavor.
Oh, awesome. All right. A simple question. What does the statistic mentioned above mean? 200, 100 place, 180 plus entering freshmen. In the School of Engineering at the College of New Jersey, every year we have about 180 plus entering freshmen that cross electrical, computer, mechanical, biomedical, and civil engineering. And there's also open option students in there that get to choose what they want to do. So
that's across the entire engineering school.
That's across the entire engineering school, yes.
In civil, we get about 26, maybe 27.
All right. So hopefully some more questions will roll in, but we'll banter some more.
I'm going to banter about our research project that we've done. We've done a couple of different things, right? I mean, these types of things that the students, our freshmen, or not freshmen, or our sophomores and juniors have been working on. And you can mention the London trip that we just took last year. Got a nice little award for that research, looking at bridge obsolescence.
Yes.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Do I want to explain that? I can explain that a little bit. So what we did is the year Dr. Brennan started, I looked at his research and we started talking and we had an idea. And it was basically, to grossly simplify what Dr. Brennan does, is he will look at any type of data that you can get to help in transportation. He uses, at the beginning, he used a lot of anonymous probe vehicle data, which is a complicated way of saying they track your cell phone when you drive around. And we looked at that and looking at slowdowns in that data to identify places where there is congestion. So we took this ability to identify congestion and then we applied it to all bridges, because bridges are fairly expensive pieces of roadway, more expensive than a normal road, and we looked for places where congestion exists at bridges, and then we looked at the condition of those bridges so we could make recommendations on what bridges need to be replaced, or what bridges need to be repaired, or what bridges need to have absolutely no work done. So we created just a sample paper, sent it out, and that got good review, and then we sent a paper international to the Institute of Civil Engineers in London, and they liked the paper, and they gave us the award for the best paper in transportation asset management for 2019.
We had 2 students on that, I believe.
And we had 2 students on that, yes.
Which was nice to get publication. So they're forever in the archives over in the Institute of Civil Engineers over in London. And another, I mean, if you don't mind, Dr. Beck, I'm going to talk about the other project that we're currently working on real quick before we answer a couple more questions.
Let's answer a couple more questions and we can talk about that.
Might as well. I just want to pop one. Yeah, please.
All right. So, do you have to declare your major freshman year? It depends on what you're asking. At the College of New Jersey in general, you can apply for an open major, but we only accept, we try, since we're small, we need to control our enrollment. So if you apply for the open major, you have to have very, very, very good, high SAT scores to be able to choose your major. Most people declare. In the College of Engineering, we have an engineering open option where you don't state what kind of engineer you want to be, you state what that you want to be an engineer, and you can then choose which school you go into. That's another option for when you apply. So do you have to declare your major freshman year? No. If you want to go in not declaring your major, it's a little harder to get in. But if I'm going to say if you know what you want to do, apply as that, and that's the easiest way to get in. So, question about what percent of the students that enter engineering as a freshman graduate from TCNJ as an engineer? That varies from department to department. Our graduation rate in civil engineering is high. The last I looked, it was about 94 to 95%. It changes depending on different majors. People decide they want to leave majors, change majors, things like that. And I'm not 100% on the statistics for everyone in the school.
I mean, we have enough contact with the students that if there's issues, we can recognize it pretty right off. Like I'll fire off emails, even a phone call if necessary, of the students like having an issue, and then we try to accommodate as necessary. I would say, I mean, I only lose like one every couple of years. We don't lose a lot of students. Once they start the engineering program, they, at least in civil side, they tend to stick in it, and they graduate.
And the way I look at it too, some students decide to change their major. And if a student comes to me and says, do you know what, I really want to change my major because I'm not passionate about this, I help them as best as they can. Yeah. Because it's hard, like, engineering is a difficult major. If you're not interested in it, it's even more difficult. It's best to study something that you're interested in so that you're successful in that. So generally too, we try to help students do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's a very, very fair statement. We're not going to, I don't talk anybody out if they want to change the major, but if they're not doing well and they need help, then we can assist in those areas.
Next question. If you happen to switch engineering majors midway through your degree, is that a major holdup? Do you basically have to restart your classes? Do you want to start?
Depends on your major. It depends if you want to switch out. If you've already taken the calculus and physics courses, a lot of those can count towards a whole bunch of things. So it all depends when you make that jump. Now, if you're going to transition into the nursing school, you're probably going to have to take a couple steps back. So it always depends on where you're going, what you get into. Now, we know a lot of people across campus, but they can't just readily accept you either because it is a small program.
The specific question is engineering majors, though. So
I'm glad I can read that now. Thank you very much. So
let me handle this.
I'll hit that back to you.
All right. So basically at TCNJ, the freshman year is the same freshman year for all engineering students. After your freshman year, it really depends on how you veer. So there are a lot of relationships between like civil and mechanical engineer. So if you started as a mechanical engineer and you realized you wanted to have an awesomer life and switch to a civil engineer, you probably do that with maybe having to take I think 2 extra labs or something like that. The trade-over would be really simple. If you were an electrical engineer and you wanted to then switch to like civil engineering, it would be more difficult. After the freshman year, it really depends on how similar or dissimilar the fields are. But at TCNJ, freshman year is good for all engineering.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, that's like a lot of schools too.
Yeah, and that's not a unique thing to the College of New Jersey. That is engineering everywhere, basically. Question: do colleges use CAD? How much of the coursework would you say is learning, math, physics, and how much of it is application and building? Let me start this one because I have maybe a unique perspective of this. I define engineering as the application of math and science to do things, right? So when you start as an engineer, you need to learn the math and science that you need to know so that you can actually use it to do things. So as an engineer, not just at TCNJ, but everywhere in general, you're going to be front-loaded with math and science courses. You can go anywhere and you're going to take Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, Physics 1, Physics 2, Chemistry, all the basic math and science courses, which you need to understand the engineering principles, because the engineering principles are all based off of this. So you start out heavy math and science until you get the background, and then as you move through, you begin to apply it into building things. Most colleges, to go back to the CAD question, most colleges do teach you CAD, but I believe CAD is like also 100% teachable to yourself. Um, and I
It's a
think it's a
tool.
great skill. If you have nothing to do during COVID, go get yourself a free installation of AutoCAD for students and draw some stuff. And I guarantee if you do that and can open it up and draw some lines and things, you can put it on your resume.
Yeah, I try to teach students not to be afraid of software. They'll come in and go, I know this software, I don't know the other one. It's just a software. Don't be afraid of it. We use it in the class. I show the basics and some of the software that's applicable to the industry right now. I integrate CAD into my class. Some professors do, some professors don't. I think everybody at the senior design level, though, at least in the civil side, has to integrate the CAD portion of it. So when you say, do we teach you CAD? Yeah, there's a CAD class, but the reality is you got to kind of teach yourself. We're teaching you the fundamentals and the mathematical background, and we'll ask you to do it. And so by asking you to do it, you kind of learn it on your own for the most part. And this is something that's going to be expected at internships and everything. And so when we get interns that come in for after the summer, they're like CAD geniuses. I'm like, all right, did they sit you down and teach you this? They're like, nope. They gave me a drawing and said, do this, and then you learn it. That's essentially what happens.
I would say that if you wanted to prepare yourself for life, not just engineering life, become comfortable being uncomfortable with brand new software. Pick out something and learn to do it. And once you get used to being uncomfortable and then making yourself comfortable, you'll be leagues ahead of everyone else. Right now, I'm YouTube live streaming to you. You should have seen the faces that I got when I said I'm going to YouTube live stream to people about engineering, and the rest of the other engineering professors like, what are you talking about? And I was uncomfortable at first, but now I'm more comfortable and I have gained a valuable life skill.
Yeah, I
So
would even say to come back to our attesting to our students, you mentioned portfolios. Sometimes a work will ask you, hey, what have you done in your class? Can you show us? And so if you have something that you could print or have a PDF of, and so I'd at least try to provide my class and explain that to the students. Look, you might get a good grade in this class, but if you do this well enough, this could actually help you in your resume. This could help you in a job interview. So do it not just for the class, do it for yourself.
another question, a controversial question at that. How many years of foreign language do you require? He's reached a high level of Spanish in 10th grade and has seniors in his class.
I don't think there's any years of foreign language required.
There is none in engineering. So generally engineering curriculums are so full, you do not have a foreign language requirement. That is to the chagrin of TCNJ's foreign language department, which tries to reincorporate it whenever they can. But as of right now, an engineer at TCNJ does not have foreign language requirements. But that doesn't mean you can't use that for something else. And kudos on being very good at Spanish.
Yeah, and I'm trying to learn Spanish. I'm using Duolingo. I'm not very good at it, but I'm sticking with it. I'm 25 days streak right now, so I'm very happy about that.
That's really good. I've installed Duolingo and I have not opened it.
It's all about learning and continuing to learn.
Yeah, be uncomfortable learning new things, and it'll be very helpful. So, let's go back to banter.
Okay, banter it is.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
What was the best thing that you ever learned in college?
The best thing I ever learned in college?
Yes.
You know what it was? I think it was a structural analysis class that I learned, and it wasn't taught from the professors. I taught myself using CAD and using Visual Basic CAD to figure out how to do like all my homework, how it repeated itself, that I could just change a couple numbers in Excel and then had the magic of being able to answer all these questions. So I think that was my best learning moment. Other than that, it's kind of a blur. It's been a few years, Dr. Bechtel, that I've been in college, other than the PhD, mind you.
All right.
What about yourself?
Okay, the best thing I ever learned, it was from Dennis Mertz at the University of Delaware, who has since passed away. God rest his soul. But he was involved in the writing of the Ashto Bridge Design Specification. He actually worked for the company that was paid to write this whole thing. This is like a 10,000 page book that tells you how to design a bridge. So when they're writing this thing, he's sitting there and they're writing it and they're writing it and they're making this whole manual. And engineers revere this manual. It tells them what they have to do and they follow every single letter of it. And he's like, yeah, we were there writing it and we needed a number, but we didn't have anything. So we picked one. So there's a lot of stuff in this manual that we just picked and we were just waiting for someone to figure it out. and at that point I realized there's a lot more stuff to know, and people take for granted the fact of how we engineer things and how we learn stuff. And that became like very clear to me. He was also made the statement, I could design you a bridge out of bubble gum if I knew the properties of bubble gum.
Well,
Which
I guess
it's true.
There's truth within high school. I think a lot of students might learn to regurgitate things, but in engineering, you got to solve these problems. That's what we try to teach when you get to the upper level classes. Here's the problem. They'll ask me, how do I solve this? And I'll go, I don't know. You tell me. That's what you have to do. You got to solve problems. And that's what's really cool about engineering is you solve all kinds of cool problems, no matter what discipline you pick. And so I can see how you're saying right there, how did they come up with to solve this problem? We picked the number. We moved on. What's that mean? That means there's a lot of other information out there that needs to be addressed. I like that.
All right. Do you guys have any other questions out there in the live stream?
Because if they don't, we're going to talk about our most recent project working with electrical engineers.
We'll do that then.
Right.
I'll wait for new questions to come in.
So again, we're going to talk about this one project that Dr. Bechtel and I are working on. So everybody's aware of 5G. I think that's been like shoved down everybody's throats recently. So on that 5G bandwidth, there's a whole bunch of things. And right now we're working with connected autonomous vehicles. But one of the things we're trying to do right now is sensor tracking. So again, I'm a civil engineer. I'm plus or minus a cubic foot type of person. And so when you get down to megahertz and things that were like at first, I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, like chip speed and chirping. I'm like, I don't know. We worked with the electrical engineers. And Dr. Bechtel and I sat down with the electrical engineers. We sat down with the company who does construction. And the construction company said, look, we're losing concrete barriers. Like, what do you mean you're losing 2-ton barriers? Like, we lose them. We misplace them. We have multiple projects going on and we have hundreds and hundreds of miles of highways. We'll put down concrete Jersey barriers, which is big barriers. We'll put them in the yard and we won't know where they are. So what do? Well, we have to buy new ones until we find them. So what's your problem, we asked. And they said, well, we need to track these things. And so we started working with the electrical engineers. And what we started doing, we started installing these little tiny sensors that last for like 10 years. And so I had to learn a little bit about batteries. Dr. Bechtel had to learn a little bit about some of the material properties as far as installing these things, because you can't just put a sensor on the side of a barrier. It has to be embedded into it. And so we actually put together a few papers. We did some research. We did a lot of cool things working with radio technologies and communication systems and putting these sensors in that we're able to track all over New Jersey. Right now, we're doing a lot of testing on today's TCAJ's campus right now. We're doing with these little sensors. I mean, they're tiny. They're like, there's these little microscopic like chips on there that are able to communicate via satellite and last for, like I said, 10 years, which has been a really cool project. And this has been a really good project. So I think we had a total of, 12 students so far working on this. So we've had a number of students that, they come in, we hire them, they graduate, and we have to get new students. And who do you know that's good at working at these embedded systems? Who do you know that's good at working with data? And they'll tell us, well, so-and-so is good at it, and we'll bring that student on. And then there's something else that we have. It's called MUSE, Mentoring Undergraduate Student Experience. And every summer, if you can't find an internship, I always recommend my students get an internship, but if they can't, or if they're really interested in research, any one of the faculty in the engineering school, we could bring 2 students on. And they could do research for us for, I think, 8 weeks in the summer. And they get a stipend. It's like it's like $3,000. And they'll actually get room on campus as well. So they'll pay for them for a place to stay. We'll give them a stipend so they'll do some research. And some of the research that Dr. Bechtel and I were discussing, even the ones that I'm just talking about right now, the sensor technology, the one where we won the award in London, that paid for 2 students for the summer. And so we're able to do these types of things because we are an undergraduate only entity. And I'm highly interested in working with undergraduates because when I come into them, I said, look, here's what I think needs to happen. What's your thoughts? And I get different perspective. Just because I have a piece of paper that says I have a PhD doesn't mean that I know everything. And I really look to the students that come up with new ideas and good ideas. And this is going to make them successful students and problem solvers. And I think Dr. Bechtel could probably attest to everything I just said.
I can, but I want to go back to a thing you said, and that is a cubic foot. because one of the most fun parts about this whole
And they're going to
project,
yell at
one of the most fun things about this Qubit project is one of my parts is I needed to make the concrete materials so we could test how radio signals pass through concrete. And we're sitting there talking about this thing, and I was like, how much concrete do we need for the top and bottom? And they're like, I don't care, just make a lot of concrete. And I was like, are you sure? Because it's going to be heavy. And they're like, no, you just make concrete. We need you to make concrete. And I'm like, all right, are you 100% sure that what you want? And they're like, yeah, why are you questioning us? We know what we're talking about. And I was like, fine. So I made them a pillar that is a cubic foot of concrete that weighs about 150 pounds to put on top and bottom of this thing. And then once I've made them and delivered them to them beautifully, they complain about like, why is it so heavy? And I was like, it's so heavy because I asked you, and I was like, it's going to be heavy, and it's going to be big. And they're like, it's fine. And I was like, well, now it's not fine. So they have these wonderful blocks of concrete that are a cubic
But
foot.
they're working very, very well. And now the problem is we didn't have people to lift them, but now we do, so we're good to go. I'm the person to lift them. So it's been working out very, very well. But this is just to show you, this is the type of fun stuff that we always deal with in the laboratory. So we're coming up with problems, we're solving things, we're arguing. It's just a series of arguments and then resolutions, arguments and resolutions. We're getting very, very good results. And I'd say TCNJ is becoming very, very well known for the type of work that we're putting out there. Not only the students that we're putting out, but the research we're putting out, because we're doing this research because it's fun. We don't accept research just to accept research. We accept things because it's interesting and it's fun for us, and we think it's going to be fun for the students. And so we're going to make sure that we do good work, and it's a lot easier to do good work if you're having fun doing it. But yes, you're right. They are very heavy. And I knew that they're going to be heavy, but we're perfectly fine with them. And we're using them efficiently and effectively. Thank you very much.
That's good. We should have actually a crane to lift them up for you by December.
Eventually. But I've had to learn a lot of coding. So those of you who are Arduino coders and stuff and do that sort of stuff, I've had to learn a little bit of that. There's been a lot of frustration on my end. But again, never be afraid to learn things. I've learned a lot. And then my daughter brings home a Dex card, and then I have to learn how to do that. And I understood some of the coding already. So it all kind of works itself out.
All right. So we're starting to wrap up. If you have any questions, shoot them in while I plug simply again. I'm Andrew Bechtel. This is Thomas Brennan. We're both from the College of New Jersey. If you're interested in learning more about the College of New Jersey, there's many links in the description. One for coming to stuff for the School of Engineering, stuff for the college in general, the civil engineering website, anything that you'd be interested in, and admissions does look if you register and come to these events. So I haven't gotten any more questions or anything. So first I want to thank Dr. Brennan. I want to thank everybody who came and watched. I hope you have a good night and found this interesting, and I hope to see you soon.
But don't forget, you can email us. Just look at the website. You can find the website's pretty easy. And send me an email. If I don't get back to you right away, send another email. Because I get about 30 or 40 a day. But it doesn't mean I don't love people and don't want to answer people. But sometimes they just get missed. But always, please, follow up if I don't get with you. But I'm pretty certain I will. And definitely say that where you saw me and where you heard this. Okay, now make it a lot easier to recognize the questions you already have answers to.
All right. Everybody stay safe and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. And now we'll just stare here until he shuts this thing off.